This is the Metro Coder podcast. This is episode 1. I want to welcome you. So, what we're going to be discussing today is going to be a repeating theme on this podcast, and that is artificial intelligence. And why am I going to be continuously bringing this up? This is because artificial intelligence only exists mainly off of using previous data. Now, previous data, that data could be acquired from a multitude of ways. Um, for instance, we can have historical data, um, let's say about some geographical information, the aging of certain soils in different parts of the world. That is data. However, the most popular use of data nowadays is our data, humans' data. We are, some might argue, the most interesting thing to study just because with these different apps, beginning with social media apps, we're always updating. What is it that we like? What is it that we don't like? And it's in real time, right? Something's presented to us, we're giving the data points about our feedback, about what we think about this input that we were given, right? So we're constantly interacting and sharing our data. So almost like this cause and effect. And these things are being recorded, recorded by these giant corporations. They are quote unquote being shared with us via the privacy policies. However, they're not as transparent and as easy to read. And most people, they just want to download the latest application and they want to use these things without having to read a 20-page document about how a company is going to use their data and exploit that for their own profit margins. Um, so one of the stories I'm going to begin with is this story from Ars Technica. The title of this article is Herzog and Zizek Become Uncanny AI Bots Trapped in Endless Conversation. I wanted to bring this one up because the creator of this website, The Infinite Conversation, Giacomo Miceli, he wanted to raise awareness by creating these two bots, using these two individuals, Werner Herzog, that's a German director and actor as well. If you're from the States and you've seen the movie Jack Reacher, he's actually the villain that is revealed at the end. That's missing the fingers. Um, yeah, so that's Werner Herzog. If you remember that movie, it's a badass movie. But yeah, check it out if you haven't. It's a pretty good movie. It's Tom Cruise, Scientologist. Nah, it is what it is. Overlook that stuff. It's the art of the film. Just watch it for that. But yeah, so Werner Herzog is in that, and then the other bot is created um, to mimic a Slovak Zizek. I hope I'm saying that right. This is a Slovenian philosopher, and I believe he's a professor as well, with the research that I did. And what this Giacomo Miceli did was use some open source tools out there, some that we'll cover, maybe not in this podcast, but maybe in the future. Well, not maybe, for sure. These are some interesting things. But yeah, so via API request, you can simply just feed data, and then you'll have your output. And the input in this case, Giacomo was able to find past interviews and dialogue that these individuals have had, and he fed it. I'm saying feed, and I'm using that term lightly, just But yeah, he uploaded that as a training set of data to a machine learning algorithm, and then it was able to use that data set, learn from that data set, and then spit out information and dialogue. That dialogue is now being presented as this endless conversation between the two, um, which is really interesting. If we check out the website on the Infinite Conversation, um, the Werner Herzog, he's speaking heavily about film and things that you would imagine that somebody that's a director would be discussing. So yeah, so that's rather interesting, and yeah, so the main reason that Giacomo made it was to raise awareness. It is ridiculously simple nowadays for somebody with a laptop, an IDE, to create something like this, something that seems so complex, something that seems uh, so something out of an Arthur C. Clarke book. Um, but now in 2022, it's becoming overwhelmingly easy, which is a good thing and a bad thing, right? So he's highlighting the fact that you could take audio, like I'm creating right now, I'm creating this audio, and this could be used and uploaded to one of these open source projects, and it'll produce something that sounds like me, which is one aspect of this is the the I believe it's the dialect, but I know it's not the dialect. It's more like the way that I sound to mimic that, my tones. That's one API that's being used there, one open source software that's being used there. Then there's the actually creation of the dialogue, right? So the first step would be take the conversations that have been had in the past, break that down into what I would assume is text. From text, upload it, and it'll spit out as much information text as you want that relates somewhat uh, to the data that you provided it. Then you take the audio of this previous data and you upload it to the other machine learning algorithm, and now that'll learn how your voice sounds. Now you merge these two things together: the words produced by this machine learning algorithm and the audio, and you fuse those two together. Now you have what seems like that person's voice and that person's thoughts. And this is where things get dangerous with deep fakes. And just in case people that don't know what deep fakes are, let me look up the definition here because I don't want to give you just my interpretation. So we'll use open source Wikipedia, even though I know that's not a great source because it could be edited. Um, Okay, so here are synthetic media in which a person in an existing image or video is replaced with someone else's likeness. While the act of creating fake content is not new, deepfakes leverage powerful techniques from machine learning and artificial intelligence to manipulate or generate visual and audio content that can more easily deceive. And that is why we need to raise awareness about what is happening to our data, how these big tech companies are using our data. Um, because I wouldn't feel comfortable, and I don't believe anybody else would feel comfortable, or they have all these resources, and it gets into kind of a conspiracy theory mindset. But with their resources, you could literally create someone's likeness. Let's say like a Joe Biden, right? Um, let's say people wanted to take he has a bunch of speeches. I mean, he has so much content based on him and images and his movements. It'd be easy to reproduce him in a video. Let's say, and this thing was published, let's say it was published um, by some social media account, and it seemed like it came from a viable news source. And people just don't know this. People really don't do research in this day and age. Have things to do. People are used to just, okay, this has a blue check mark or some type of verification, or a lot of people are following, and they're like, hey, this has to be valid, right? Because we no longer like to do the research and see what's real and what's not real. And yeah, it could be very misleading as to what is going to be presented to us in the internet. And now let's fast forward, let's say, I don't know how many years, but let's say the day the metaverse or something like the metaverse comes into fruition. Imagine what could be produced in a three-dimensional world, and you could believe that this NPC, this non-playable character, which you don't know if it's a non-playable character or not, it's it's actually one of these deep fakes. It could be someone that you always tell your deepest secrets to, and all this information is being collected, and it's somebody that you always meet up with in the metaverse and you hang out with, and then one of these fakes come along and they can just be generating the same voice, the same likeness, the same gestures as the person that you're used to seeing. Right now, when we get into the digital realm of things, we can see how dangerous these things can become. But in reality, they can also be, and nowadays can be harmful because of false news, right? Misinformation. Some posts could be going viral just because it seems funny. There's this little Kanye West workout video with his face with a flat top, and he's just like in this 1980s gear, just just working out, and that's his face, and his gestures are being recreated. So these things are getting a little bit sophisticated. Yes, they're cool. I'm a techie. I like things like this, but we also have to be aware of the ethical implications. And when things are open source, we have to be mindful of the uses of it. Which is why I want to just raise awareness of it. Is when we create things as text, um, I'm speaking to the software engineers out there, potential software engineers out there. Um, the ethics behind the things that we're making should be taken into consideration. The companies that we're going to go work for or create, um, we're going to have we should have this responsibility of protecting the user, protecting the user's data, not using it just for profit, um, and just doing the right thing, right? This isn't taught enough. This isn't a part of the curriculum at any, from what I understand, it's not a mandatory course in computer science or computer engineering. Um, but I just ask those that are software engineers out there, take it into consideration. And then here we have another story where AI in medicine. This one's by Scientific America. Here, the title of it is AI in medicine is overhyped. Interestingly enough, it is. It is, and a lot of these things with AI is overhyped. The statistical accuracy of these algorithms is not incredibly. I'm going to say significant, and I'm going to say significant in the terms of p-value, right? If we were to take, let me break down what a p-value is. P-value in stats. Level of marginal significance within a statistical hypothesis test, representing the probability of the occurrence of a given event. Therefore, the it tests the accuracy of an algorithm. Um, and usually a good p-value is like less than 0.05 percent, which means that it's extremely significant. And it doesn't mean that the result that you had came from chance, because in probability and statistics, there is that chance that it's just random luck. So like I say, if you flip a coin, you could guess, right? And you think you're getting better and better at it with each coin flip. But the actual reality is that there's a 50% chance of you guessing the correct answer, right? But let's say you get it to the point where like you're super accurate. I mean, then you can say you're kind of you can see the future, right? Um, but yeah, so this article just really talks about um, how overhyped these AI algorithms are, and yes, I do agree with that. There's been research done, especially like with breast cancer. What it's really good at in the medical field, this artificial intelligence, is really to get like the bulk work done for doctors, so that way they can really focus on nuanced details, let's say on like x-rays and things of that nature, that really artificial intelligence really can't handle, is those edge cases that really require the human element and a better just better thinking and experience and just using your, I would say, your hunch, your guess, your intuition, you know. So yeah, so and the other thing that I want to bring up is, how do we know, as that's the patient in the room, how do we know that an artificial intelligence algorithm is being used to diagnose us, or let's say even operate on us? I mean, we don't really know. Let's say the medicines that are being used in us, a lot of it is using cloud computing, but a distributed cloud computing, like for instance, uh, DNA, and seeing how it's manipulated with different vaccines. That's something that's been going on for some time now. Um, how do we know, right? Like, and then us as the user, we're not even allowed to even question these algorithms and the accuracy of it. A lot of these algorithms, they become known as intellectual property, quote unquote, for the given company, right? Like if that company has an algorithm that they came up with some type of accuracy that they feel is significant, they keep that on the wraps. Like this is not something that becomes open source, and understandably so. But there has to be some type of ethics committee um, to come in and really have some policing, right? Because a great example is so in artificial intelligence, just in general, I'm not talking about just medical. Tesla has what they claim is the self-driving mode. There's no such thing as self-driving cars right now. There's no hands off 100%. Car is going to drive itself. It's going to avoid accidents. Nothing. But Elon Musk is great at marketing, and he's been able to convince people to buy this vehicle because it has a certain level of automation built into it. The truth is that it's not fully self-driving. He's actually been caught up by California DMV, and they actually wanted to see what the self-driving is like. There are accidents that are being caused. Insurance companies have to pay out, and then we get so there's a certain limit that this artificial intelligence and this machine learning has, right? It can help you stay within a lane, right, under certain conditions. But then when it comes to, there's a paradox where, let's say your car loses the brakes. There's no way to stop this vehicle at all. There's uh, people crossing the street. Now you have old people crossing the street. Then you have another group of people, which is nothing but toddlers. And then you have uh, dogs crossing the street, right? You have to hit one of these three things, right? It's just, imagine it's like a tunnel. You only have these three things to hit. What should the car do? And that becomes the dilemma. We wouldn't know. We don't know what Elon is choosing. What is that it should do? Do you think that you should, the driver, the owner of the Tesla vehicle, do you think that you should be the one that is self-sacrificing? The car crashes into, let's say, a wall, and you're the only one that dies? I mean, after all, you're the one that paid for this vehicle that's self-driving. Isn't it? Isn't its job supposed to be to protect you? I don't know, but that's a question there. Or does it choose to run over the older people because they're older? They may be 80 years old. They may be on their way out the door. Who knows? Is is that the right choice, or should it run over the animals that are crossing the street, the dogs, because they're not human? I mean, we don't know. These are ethical questions that have to be asked, and they have to be implemented in a real self-driving car. What happens? Right? There's no brakes. It has to make a decision. It has to hit into something. Something is going to happen. Now, what? So, so that's one of the things that is bothersome about these AI claims about what they can do. And and yeah, just we're not given access. Nobody's given access to know really what these artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms that are being implemented and being used around us each and every day. On the next podcast, I have a couple of research cases where false positives happen, and they result in people being incarcerated, uh, and other cases that happen when an algorithm is thought of to be accurate and to be this all knowing thing. It's not, it's a silicone chip and it's making decisions. Um, and we need to be a little bit more conscious about what's happening in order for us to be able to become activists and ask for more clear understanding of what's going on, how our data is being used, and for some type of oversight to happen. Because as technology keeps rolling out and new features keep rolling out, our data is being collected and it's being used, and nobody's doing anything about it. Um, I think, I think, what's his name? Michael? Let me see. Giacomo Miceli from Italy. I thank him for being brave and actually getting the attention of mainstream media for these AI bots that he created. Check out his website, theendlessconversation.com. Check out his profile. Everything is linked in that website itself. Um, I thank you for raising awareness about artificial intelligence, and hopefully more people become aware of what's happening, and we can actually do something about it and prevent um, things getting out of control as we get exposed to this more and more. Thank you very much, and have a great night. Have a great day. Have a great afternoon, people from Metro Coder. Take care.